Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to do a review for you of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm not going to give you a plot recap in the way that I normally do, because this movie is a little different in that it doesn't really seem to have one main plot that you can recount the story points of in a way that wouldn't be very time consuming, because this movie also has a bunch of subplots. Like movies usually do have an A plot and a B plot, maybe a C plot, but this one I would swear gets all the way down to like J with all the subplots that it has. So what I'm really going to do is just tell you what I thought of this film, which very basically is about the Spengler family from Ghostbusters Afterlife, consisting of the McKenna Grace character, Phoebe, the Phil Wolfhard character, the Paul Rudd character, and the mom character, having set up shop at the old Ghostbusters firehouse in New York City, where they have been fulfilling the role of Ghostbusters for the city, and how they end up dealing with the frozen empire ghost Goraka, who wants to freeze the crap out of the world for revenge for his having been imprisoned in this orb that during the course of the film he escapes from. Around that plot in this film, there are a number of smaller plots, and there are actually more than there should be. But the interesting thing is that I really enjoyed this movie, and that's because it succeeds at being an entertaining film despite this and a couple of other things that I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about what I really liked about this film specifically. I really liked the performance of McKenna Grace as Phoebe. She did a really good job in this movie, which is not surprising because she was good in the last one. And the character stuff that her character Phoebe goes through in this movie is very heartfelt and poignant and moving, and I really enjoyed it. She finds herself off the Ghostbusters team because she's only 15, and the mayor says she can't be in the dangerous situations that the rest of the team is in because she's a minor, whereas her brother, the Finn Wolfhard character, is 18. And so she's kind of pissed off. And so she goes through a lot of things in this film where she's acting up because of that. She also meets the ghost of a 16-year-old girl that she develops a friendship with that bordered on a romantic relationship, though nothing romantic ever actually occurred. And I thought that was very well done and very sweet. And for me, it was really the best thing about the movie, and the thing that made up for the fact that the movie doesn't really have a strong central plot that carries it, as opposed to multiple plots that make it up and make up its running time. And what I mean by that is that the plot with Goraka, you would think, would be the main plot, that most of the scenes in the movie would have to deal with the effects of his coming back and how they were going to fight him, and did they fail to fight him at first and then manage to fight him, but that's not what happens. That plot is pretty cut and dry, and you see moments of it throughout the film, but it's really just a scaffolding on which the rest of the film is centered. And so that particular plot kind of falls flat, but the movie succeeds despite this because of the other elements of it that make it fun and entertaining and engaging. Another one of those such things is Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd's very good in this movie. He has quite the part. And I think his retired Ghostbuster, but still working scientist character was very well done by the writers. He did a great job playing it. So I thought they used him well. And that was another highlight of the movie that helps it make up for the fact that its central plot of this ice villain is kind of lackluster, kind of like a backdrop and not really the plot of the movie. Other people might not appreciate that and might find that to be a real big negative that makes the movie bad. I didn't. I thought the movie was still very good. Another thing that's really good about the movie is Kumail Nanjiani. His character is very funny. Some people are going to think it's annoying, his character, but I thought he was very funny and quite good and ultimately endearing. So I really liked that. Paul Rudd is good in this film as well, which is not a surprise. He's good in everything. There are also some decent performances from Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, and Bill Murray, although Bill Murray is in it very little. Finn Wolfhard is good in this movie. Unfortunately, you could really take his part out of it and it wouldn't affect the film. And I say unfortunately because, he's an up and coming actor still, even though he's had Stranger Things and a couple of other projects that have done well. It's kind of unfortunate for him at this stage of his career, I think, to be in a movie where his part is so insignificant that if you took him out, it wouldn't make a difference. But it doesn't hurt the film in my estimation. So that's just another thing that the movie succeeds in spite of. Another thing that the movie succeeds in spite of is the fact that because this Goraka plot is kind of a backdrop and not the main focus of the film, it takes a while to get going. Like these other plots, they keep showing, scenes. The moment to moment progression of the film is scene about this, scene about that, scene about the other thing. Oh, scene about Goraka, scene about this, scene about that, scene about the other thing. Oh, scene about Goraka. And you see that sometimes in movies where, the main plot is developing in the background and it's boiling under the surface, and it works when done well. But in this case, by the time they get to it, it was anticlimactic sort of, and it falls flat. But it doesn't, to me, ruin the movie because the other stuff is so good, and I thought heartfelt, as I've said, and so forth. And emotionally engaging, intellectually engaging. But as you're watching it, you kind of notice that plot is not really moving forward, and it can take you out of the experience. But if you stick with it, like I said, in the end, there's enough, heartwarming stuff in it that it's an enjoyable movie. Another thing that kind of takes you out of it is that there are superfluous characters, like the character Lucky, who was in the last one, I guess, and the character Podcast, who I think was in the last one. They're kind of thrown in there, and it's, there's not a lot of reason for it, and it just makes the film even more disjointed, which, as I said, is overcome by other things, but it almost goes off the rails if not for these other things that I think made the movie succeed despite these things. So I'm curious as to why they did it. There's even a scientist that works for Ernie Hudson who is doing some ghost busting research in his own facility away from the firehouse, and he's in a number of scenes. But again, it's like, why? Why didn't they just give, I don't know, I guess they couldn't, but well, they could have done, I think they could have given Annie Potts his scenes and it would have made sense, but he's just kind of this superfluous character. And, like I said, there are a couple of other superfluous characters, so it was really kind of strange. But again, the stuff they did give Annie Potts was good. And again, this movie, to me, succeeds despite all of these drawbacks. It's a good family type film, and it's, got humor and action, and it's Ghostbusters, right? You got the OG Ghostbusters, except of course Harold Ramis. And there's even a scene at the end where that sort of gets its own spotlight, where it's just them, and that's pretty cool. But I'm going to stop here because otherwise I'll start repeating myself to an annoying extent. And I'll close by saying that it's just an enjoyable film that if you can stay in the moment while you're watching it and not let the wheels turn in the back of your head about sort of the flaws of the way it unfolds, you will in the end, I think, enjoy it and be glad that they made it and be glad that you went to see it. So I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, as always, I wish you peace and long life.